Have you seen Biohazard? What happens when a group of scientists summon a creature from another dimension? Well, not much. Sure, there are a few deaths of random characters here and there, while our heroes zero in on the fearsome creature, but when push comes to shove, they surrender. Hey, that's actually a pretty good job summing up the whole plot. Biohazard is a schlocky horror movie with horrible acting, dreadful costumes, lackluster script, and the funniest 70 minutes of my life. Well, for 2025 so far. But this movie, if we were to give it an honest rating, would be like a 1 out of 10. The acting is below subpar, not as bad as, modern B flicks, but still bad. The script completely gives up in the last 10-15 minutes of the film. The premise is very shaky. The special effects are amateurish. I mean, there's a few good moments. And the costume design leaves a lot to be desired. But if you find movies like this funny, which I find myself enjoying them more and more of late, then I think you could probably stomach this movie for 70 minutes in order to enjoy some good laughs. So let's cover the cast, the director, who's also the writer, and finally the ending with the review. And why not talk about the cinematography, the music, the distribution company, who has their own lore. I mean, come on. This movie is a low-budget schlock. It's filmed in San Fernando Valley, a place that tried really, really hard to prevent this movie from being made and failed, so yeah. Anyway, here's the timestamp to the review, and let's get into it. Aldo Ray as General Randolph. He's probably the most famous actor in this movie, who was also only there for the check. I mean, he phoned in his performance, and you know what? Who can blame the guy? By this point in his career, as well as for many Golden Age actors, he was taking what was given. But it wasn't always like that for Aldo Ray, as he was once a Golden Globe nominee, and his career expanded into 4 decades. Most of his high-profile work comes from the beginning of his career, movies such as The Marrying Kind, Pat and Mike, Let's Do It Again, and Battle Cry. From there, he continued to find work, but the movie Battle Cry hampered his career, as it was the movie that solidified him into a tough guy persona. By the 80s, his career was hung up and dried, only appearing in smaller or minor roles, some that happen to be well known and movies that are beloved by many, like The Secret Life of Nim or The Sicilian. But most of his career, before his passing, was working for Fred Olen Ray. Ray once said, quote, "He'd give me $1,000 in cash, pay my expenses, and I'd do a day's work. Somebody showed me one of his cassettes starring Aldo Ray, but it was just a one-day job. I needed money at the time, and Fred knew I needed a buck. So I did it. He exploited me. Yeah, but I was right for it." Ray would pass away 6 years after this movie from complications of pneumonia and throat cancer. Angelique Pettyjohn as Lisa Martin, the local psychic. Pettyjohn has a small niche period in Hollywood that stretched for about 3 years before lying dormant for a decade, then read back to life and was cut short by cervical cancer. Pettyjohn's career began in 1967 with her appearing in over 8 films, many of them no-line roles. In 1968, it didn't slow down for Pettyjohn as she appeared in 6 more uncredited, unspoken roles. But something caught people's eyes, as it did land her most well-known role in Star Trek as the thrall trainer to James T. Kirk in episode Gangsters of Triskelion. In '69, the roles kept coming, and some even with lines, as she would appear in movies like Hell's Bells and Glenn Ford's Heaven with a Gun. But in the early '70s, her career would take a rapid decline, becoming dormant for nearly a decade. And I would have to assume some of this would have to deal with the morality police at the time, as in 1970, Pettyjohn became a Las Vegas burlesque dancer, which spanned the whole gap while she was away from Hollywood. In 1979, she was even photographed for Playboy's pictorial, The Girls of Las Vegas. But starting also in '79, I do wonder why, she had a resurgence in low-budget movies and even in a few cult classics like Goodbye Cruel World, Repo Man, The Lost Empire, and Wizard of Speed and Time, which would also be her last role in 1989. Within 3 years, Pettyjohn passed away from cervical cancer. Now, with the next 3 main characters, we venture into the unknown area, so no one else has a Wikipedia page, so it's a little harder to see what they've been up to. But IMDb comes to help us out. William Fair, who plays Michael Carter, our main character, a drummed but not quite out soldier who has to hunt the monster. Michael Fair, though, did not explode after this movie came out. In fact, most of his career has been nothing more than playing cops, officer number one, uniformed officer, and of course his moment in Deep Impact as Gray Man. But you can watch his latest outing on YouTube for free called Killing Cookie, where he plays U.S. Marshal, once again a cop, Richard Stockton. Now we come over to David O'Hara as Rieger, credited as David Pearson. He plays Michael Carter's nemesis for some odd reason. But O'Hara was another one who didn't find success and has played numerous thugs and officers and cops as well. But starting in 2008, he has found a niche that, yes, sometimes works out, but most of the time it's generally ignored in short movies. But his latest outing was on the TV show SWAT in Season 6, Episodes 10, Witness. And finally, Frank McDonald as Mike Hodgson. I don't know anything about this guy. He appeared in 4 movies and retired or passed away. 3 of those movies were Fred Olen Ray movies, which was Scalps, Biohazard, and The Tomb. But in 1988, he somehow landed a role in a Martin Sheen movie called Da as Cap McDonald. But after that, nothing. So if you know more, make sure to share it down in the comments so that way I can know. Fred Olen Ray, American film producer, director, and screenwriter for more than 200 low, sometimes medium-budget films that cover a wide range of genres. Ray's introduction to the film industry was a low-budget horror and science fiction films that populated TV screens in the 70s and 80s. But after a while, mainly around the late 90s to the early 2000s, that market dried up. Then he switched over to some softcore TNA movies, many of them written by him under at least 30 different pen names. And if you're wondering why did he have such success in the market, well, 1, men are horny, and 2, movies themselves were very cheap to make and usually turned a small profit. But interestingly, Ray has actually found a lot of success within another surprising genre: romantic holiday movies. If you have seen a Peacock Christmas movie or maybe some other channel, I doubt Hallmark, I think they probably have standards, then you have probably seen one of his Christmas movies. In fact, him and his son, Christopher Ray, a longtime producer of his father's films, have made 13 Christmas movies since 2018. Maybe not as many schlocky movies as he used to pump out, since he does in fact still make many of them, quite recently with Moon Maidens, but a lot of time seems now to be devoted to appealing to men and women. Now, I won't be giving a comprehensive look at the overall plot, but I will be using what Wikipedia has written, and maybe they did a pretty good job with it. Let's get started. The story revolves around a group of scientists conducting experiments on transferring matter from other dimensions in a remote desert research lab. However, things go awry when a container holding a creature from another dimension is opened, releasing a series of monsters that start rampaging and killing people. The protagonist of the film is Michael Carter, an army officer tasked with tracking down and dealing with the monsters. He teams up with Lisa Martin, a psychic who has been involved in the experiments conducted by Dr. Williams. After a series of murders committed by the creature, our heroes finally corner the alien monster in a warehouse in the final confrontation. Carter helps kill another fellow soldier who was really getting on his nerves before finally killing the small alien dimensional creature. It is then revealed that one of the leading characters is actually one of the alien monsters before the movie just ends with our hero giving up and walking away.
I think that's it.
Wow, that's actually, yeah, that's the plot. Now, I inserted the last bit to jive it up, but honestly, I don't think I needed to. The movie really doesn't have a comprehensive plot, and it didn't need one. This movie was for people who wanted to see corny acting, funny narratives, and, mediocre special effects. So now we have to break up this movie into what's good and bad. Now, unlike other movies that are good and some that are just bad, this movie is in the category of bad that it's so good. It's not The Godfather, but at the same time, it's not Joker Folie Do. It's in its own category. Starting with the worst. The worst thing, and really the only thing that's bad about this movie, is the script. Acting can be bad, but what your characters are saying can still be good, even if they're delivered by a plank of wood. But the dialogue in this is horrible. It's horribly thought out conversations.
Rieger and Carter, get this thing into the van. Come on, let's get rolling.
You're making a big mistake here.
That's for you to think.
There's one weird anti-Indian statement.
Hodge said I asked for you because I was told you had Indian in you and you knew this area very well.
Sir, there haven't been Indians in this area for hundreds of years.
Sounds like somebody's been doing their job.
Damn straight, Private.
The wife in this scene is not just being shrill, but saying nothing but shrill.
How many times have I told you speed kills? And it kills little animals, and it kills little kids, and it kills people with little brains. People with little brains, they've never got any ambition, they never go anywhere. You've got a little brain, Jack. Yes, people with little brains should be run over. You should be run over.
And then you also have the homeless guy eating cats and dogs scene as well. It didn't make any sense. Could have been cut or at least reshot to be solely from the point of view of the alien sneaking up on the group of homeless men who are enjoying some Fallout squirrel. But to add on top of all of that, we are also given unthought out reasoning and plot holes. Like, how did Rieger know where the alien was at the end of the movie? When did Petty John become an alien? How did they capture the alien? Why do the guns not work on the alien in one scene, but then completely work in the next scene? You know, it's just broken, not well thought out ideas. And you could say, you know, well, Ray isn't known for being a great director. He loves to make schlocky movies. But at this time, he was an up-and-starter, and you never make it big if you don't refine your script or your directing. So if you're going to be a director, you need to work on that. And Ray decided he didn't want to and pursued softcore porn movies. But, you know, let's just get behind all this. What makes this movie good? Because, you know, I'm a little tired of preaching. Well, I love Dr. Williams. He's our experimenter, the creator of the psychic helmet, as floppy as it is, which allows Petty John to view into the other universe or the folds of the universe. I think, I don't know. Also, everybody acts like they can see what she sees, which doesn't make any sense because she's a psychic. She's experiencing everything in her head, but, you know, whatever.
That's the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, I think we've seen history here today.
Almost a spiritual experience.
Shit.
Dr. Williams, though, you can tell is either a very bad actor or that all of his lines outside of the opening scene were done after filming for everyone else. After the opening, he never has another moment where he's standing side by side with another actor. And every time he delivers a line, it's not reflecting the other person's tone. It's not like he's coming off as an a-hole, but more like he doesn't know how that person said the line. So he doesn't know how to deliver it, and he's basing it all on what the director is reading to it.
This scientific discovery of yours, Dr. Williams, just killed a man within a matter of seconds.
Perhaps it has a sophisticated laser weapon of some sort.
But what's funny, though, is just the way he says everything. It's all so tonally different that it just makes you laugh while you're watching it.
Well, Randolph and Rieger have already gone back. Now I am to stay here and quietly locate and destroy the thing.
You can't do that.
I think that's a wise move, all things considered.
No. No!
Number 2, the alien attacks where people spit out large, frothing foam. You know, it doesn't make any sense unless you read Ray's interview in Cinefantastic. I guess that's how you say it. In that interview, he talks about how the alien has poison in his claws and that many of the people aren't dying by being mauled, but are actually dying because of large amounts of poisoning. Well, that would make a lot more sense if you told people that in the movie. Instead, everyone just keeps chucking up foam while still blinking, and I just assumed it was because he shot once and didn't have enough money to do another take, and he just went, good enough. Especially after the first alien attack where our soldier is just mauled to death. And he didn't cough up foam. Also, I love how Ray really wanted to mimic better alien movies, like Alien with the Xenomorph. Even going so far as trying to make the head for the alien reminiscent to the head of the Xenomorph. Or mimicking his kills in the same vein as with the garage kill and the homeless E.T. lover, who had the alien rise up behind him from his own shopping cart, which didn't make a lot of sense because it's like, how did he get in the shopping cart? You can barely tell those scenes apart, right? Now, a good way to fix that scene is to make it seem a little more reminiscent of E.T. and have the guy hide the alien from the mean government before being brutally killed. Also, I love how the alien, played by Ray's own son Christopher, really looks like a cheap Power Ranger villain. It makes me think about another movie review I did on The Guyver, except the Guyver actually had decent villainous outfits, while this one, not so much. Another point of humor, the Facehugger ripoff. It's nothing more than a rubber chicken, I think. When you see it laying on the ground, it just looks like a well-decorated rubber chicken. It's got one really long neck. It has no arms, a stubby butt, and with 2 long legs. But it's included in one of the funniest moments of the movie, and that is when our military thief is attacked and has his throat ripped out. They just fling the rubber chicken at the guy's face, who somehow not only falls backwards, but 4 feet to the left and like 6 feet backwards into another room, all without struggling and flinging about with the rubber chicken. He just falls into another room. And then Carter tells Petty John that he's dead or something by shaking his head, and the thief is behind him blinking. Then the EMTs show up and they do the most amazing form of CPR I've ever seen. It's super realistic and convincing. Also, they didn't even have enough money to rent a gurney or buy convincing uniforms. It's just 2 guys running into a house. It's like nothing was left in the budget. It's one of the most humorous moments of the movie. And the whole entire reason why this scene even played out was because no one spotted the thief hiding a massive object under one of the benches in the back of the truck. And when Carter is called for help, he inadvertently opens the container by tapping the cardboard alien object as softly as possible. So it just had so many different laughs. And one final note, not that this movie didn't have any more laughs. It has to do, though, with the ending. Now, I don't like the ending as a, kind of not really a writer, because it's lazy and it doesn't make any sense, especially when it comes to our 2 heroes fighting one another because they're pissy. But I enjoy the fact that the director was so lazy that he just went with this ending for the movie, not giving us anything comprehensive, just ending it. So the factory is now filled with alien spawn that eventually will attack and kill people, and if anything like Alien, it will impregnate them as well. Also, we won't care to explain how one of the main characters reveals to be an alien, disguising herself until the very end. We'll give you a basic of how she did it, but nothing comprehensive. And when she finally reveals that she's one of them, our hero just shrugs and quits. All of that is incredibly annoying for someone like me who wants desperately to write something. But at the same time, it's hysterical that people read this, watched the dailies, and said, yes. Like, no one disagreed with the ending. It's just that's maddening and funny all at the same time. But that's my review. It's a schlocky movie with horrible acting, lackluster special effects. It's one of the worst scripts ever. And, it's 70 minutes. And technically for me, it was 140 since I had to watch it twice. And I'll probably have to watch it a 3rd time. But, it's 70 minutes that you probably won't ever get back. I mean, I definitely will not get back mine. But for you B-movie lovers, I think you'll find love for it. But outside of that, you guys have a good one.
I think that's it.